I'm Richard Hale, 66. The security cameras in my home revealed that my own son and his wife were plotting to stage my death as an electrical accident for the insurance money. If you were my age, would you confront them directly, or wait until you had every piece of proof? Let me know what you'd do. It was a Thursday afternoon in late November, and the cold creeping through the windows reminded me of how long I'd lived in this house. I built it myself in 1997, every wire and outlet run by my own hands. At the time, I'd pictured growing old here with Margaret, my wife. But she passed 8 years ago, and now it was just me. Me in the workshop, me in the memories. I'd just finished rewiring the security system. A nasty power surge 2 weeks ago had knocked everything out. The cameras, 8 in total, had been nothing more than expensive wall ornaments since then. But now, thanks to 3 steady hours and hands trained over 4 decades as an electrician, they were purring back to life. Each lens sharp as crystal, each microphone tuned to catch the lightest creak of a floorboard. That familiar satisfaction bloomed in my chest, the feeling of fixing something right. At 66, I didn't move like I used to, but I didn't trust outsiders with this house. Not when I could still handle a voltmeter better than most 20-year-olds. This place was my legacy. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, mortgage-free, solid as steel. I was wiping dust from one of the monitors when I heard car doors slam outside, right on schedule. 5:30. Thursday night dinners with Michael and Amanda had become a habit after Margaret died. At first they were a comfort, but lately I'd started picking up strange static in the air, something off. Dad Michael's voice rang out from the driveway. "You up there?" Back here, I called, walking through the hall. Amanda's laugh followed, sharp and sweet, like a bell with a crack in it. When Michael first brought her home 3 years ago, I'd found her charming. Lately, that charm felt rehearsed. They stepped inside, coats in hand. Michael looked thinner than usual, eyes tired. Amanda was dressed to the nines as always, perfect hair-polished boots, but her smile never reached her eyes. "Place still smells like wood smoke and coffee," she said brightly. "Makes me think of old stories and warm pie." "You work too hard, Dad," Michael added, patting my shoulder. "You should let professionals handle things like electrical. You're not 20 anymore." I raised an eyebrow. Professionals cost more in a day than I used to make in a week. Besides, it keeps these hands limber. Amanda tilted her head. "Still, you might want to think about upgrading. Your cameras are pretty old, right? What if something actually happens?" I nearly said I'd just finished fixing them, how clear they were now, but the phone rang from the kitchen, slicing through the conversation. It was Evelyn Whitaker, my neighbor next door. Her voice trembled. "Richard, I'm so sorry, but there's water leaking into my basement. I can't reach the main shutoff." Evelyn's husband had passed last spring. She was still learning which knob did what. "I'll be right over," I said. When I turned back, Amanda and Michael were already gathering their coats. "No worries," Michael said. "We'll let you go." "Thanks again for dinner," Amanda added, slipping on her gloves. I nodded, something scratching at the back of my mind as I watched them walk to the car. Amanda's comment about the cameras, Michael's tired smile, it didn't sit right. But neighbors came first. I told myself I'd bring it up over coffee tomorrow. What I didn't realize was that I'd missed my chance. I'd forgotten to tell them the cameras were working again. Later that night, I sat in my workshop and replayed the conversation in my head. Amanda's probing about the system, the way Michael barely made eye contact. My gut, after 40 years in the field, knew when something wasn't wired correctly. But I chalked it up to stress. Maybe the market was still rough. Maybe Michael just needed time. And Amanda, well, maybe she didn't mean anything by her questions. Still, I set a mental note to run a full systems check the next morning. After decades of solving problems others couldn't see, I'd learned that the most revealing moments happen when no one thinks you're watching. The monitors glowed quietly in the dark as I locked up for the night. The house was silent. Safe. Or so I thought. The next morning I was up before the sun, coffee in hand, back in my workshop. The November air cut sharp through the window panes, but inside I was focused, methodical. I wanted to test the full reach of my security system now that the cameras were back online. The monitors came to life one by one. Living room, kitchen, driveway, workshop, every corner displayed in perfect clarity. The microphones were picking up everything, the hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the stairs. I sat back proud. 40 years of working in electrical taught me to appreciate the beauty of clean lines and reliable signal. At 10:15, I reached to reposition one of the basement angles. That's when I heard it, the front door unlocking. No knock, no heads up, no scheduled visit. Through the living room feed, I watched Michael and Amanda step inside with practiced ease. Amanda scanned the room quickly, her heels clicking over the hardwood. Michael looked uneasy, glancing over his shoulder. They weren't supposed to be here. Michael had mentioned job interviews. Amanda said something about errands. I reached for the intercom to call out, but then froze. The way they were moving wasn't casual. They were listening for signs of life. And they didn't know the cameras were working. Perfect, Amanda said, her voice clear through the speakers. He's not here. Camera's still dead from that surge. Michael hovered near the stairway, fidgeting. Amanda, this feels wrong. Going through his personal stuff. We should wait. Amanda's laugh sent a chill down my spine. We've discussed this. Sunday morning, it happens in the basement. He's always down there. Electrical accident. Completely believable. I felt the air leave my lungs. Electrical accident. My own son and his wife were planning to kill me right here in the workshop I built with my bare hands. Amanda moved into the study and began pulling folders from my desk drawers. Life insurance is $280,000, she said. House market value's pushing $780. We sell quick, pay off your debt, start fresh. Michael slumped into the old armchair like someone had just punched him. I know the money would fix things, he whispered. But it's my father, Amanda. Amanda didn't hesitate. Your father, who's controlled your life for 33 years, who made you feel like a failure every time you stumbled. Harold Peterson was harder to convince than you. And that worked out just fine. That name stopped me cold. Harold Peterson. Who? Michael looked confused, too. Who's Harold? She smiled that same tight, perfect smile. Old man and eerie. Nice house. Trusted me. Death certificate said natural causes. Nobody questioned it. I gripped the edge of the desk. My hands were shaking not from fear but from rage. Then she kept going. Dorothy Mitchell in Beaver Falls. She signed over her house the week before she fell down the stairs. People thought it was tragic. Michael's face was pale. You never said they actually died. Amanda rolled her eyes. You thought they moved to Florida to grow up. This is how things work. Weak people get devoured. I looked at my son on the screen, the boy I raised after Margaret died, and I watched him nod. That moment, watching him choose her logic over his conscience, was worse than hearing the plan. I wasn't just a target. I was an inconvenience to be erased. Amanda laid out the plan in chilling detail. Sunday, 8 a.m. He's in the workshop. You're already here checking on him. I'm upstairs making coffee, wiring shorts. Fall down the stairs. Delay calling emergency until 10. Grieving family by noon. 48 hours. That's how long I had before they planned to kill me. I stood from my chair, my coffee cold. The images still flickered across the screen, but my mind was already moving. This wasn't impulsive greed. This was a practiced predator who had killed before, and now she was using my son to finish the job. But Amanda hadn't counted on one thing. I could see her coming. I drove across town with purpose, heart pounding, the footage backed up twice on a flash drive in my jacket pocket. By 12:45, I was walking into the offices of Bennett Law Group. Laura Bennett was younger than I expected, maybe 50, with a presence that made the room quieter when she entered. You mentioned conspiracy to commit murder, she said, gesturing me in. Let's hear it all. I placed the flash drive on her desk, and Saturday, then I pressed play. Amanda's voice filled the room. Sunday, 8 a.m. Electrical shock in the basement. Delayed 911 call. Laura didn't flinch. She just kept listening, jaw tightening. This isn't family betrayal, Mr. Hale, she said when it ended. This is felony elder abuse. And if what she said about Peterson and Mitchell is true, this woman is a serial killer. She picked up her phone. We're scheduling a competency exam. If they plan to say you're senile, we'll bury them in documentation. You said you can drive. 15 minutes to the clinic, I replied. Good. Then you're meeting Dr. Reynolds at 2:30. Dr. Reynolds had known me for over 10 years. She ran a full evaluation, memory, reasoning, current events. I passed everything with clarity. Richard, she said, signing the documents, you're sharper than most men 20 years younger. What you're feeling isn't paranoia, it's instinct. By 3:30, I was back in Laura's office. Her private investigator had something new. She's not Amanda Hale, he said. Her real name is Jennifer Walsh. Multiple warrants, suspicious deaths, identity fraud. Laura turned to me. That gives us legal teeth. Active warrants mean we don't wait. We act. I nodded. They said Sunday, 8 a.m. Laura picked up her phone again. Then we've got less than 40 hours to bring this to the police and set a trap she'll never see coming. The sky outside had turned a dull silver by the time I walked back into Laura Bennett's office. She was on the phone tapping a pen against her desk with sharp, deliberate rhythm. The leather chair creaked as I sat down, heart still thudding from the medical evaluation. "They're planning to kill me in 36 hours, I said simply. Laura ended the call, and we're going to stop them. She laid a folder on the desk, my cognitive evaluation stamped and signed by Dr. Reynolds. "Your memory, attention, reasoning all intact. This will block any attempt to claim you're unfit." She slid it aside and opened her laptop. "Let's talk next steps." Her private investigator, a wiry man in his late 40s, entered with a laptop and a stack of printed documents. His voice was calm, but his eyes were lit with purpose. "She's not just a manipulative spouse," he began. "Her real name is Jennifer Walsh. There are open warrants in Ohio and Pennsylvania, financial fraud, elder abuse, suspicious deaths." He laid out the photos. One showed Harold Peterson obituary dated 3 years ago, cause of death listed as cardiac failure. Another Dorothy Mitchell, a kind-looking woman whose staircase accident happened just weeks after transferring her home deed. "These were not coincidences," he added. "Both had assets. Both were elderly. Both had interacted with Jennifer Walsh shortly before their deaths." "And now she's moved on to me," I said, voice low. Laura nodded. "The good news. With this level of documentation and her warrants, we don't need a full investigation to act. We can move immediately." She picked up her phone again. "I'm calling Detective Paul Ramirez, Elder Crimes Unit. He's dealt with predatory cases like this before." I looked over at the still images on the desk. The same cold smile Amanda wore at my dinner table was now framed in police reports and funeral notices. "She's done this before," I said, "but not to someone like me." By 4:30, we were sitting across from Detective Ramirez in a quiet corner of the city's central police precinct. He had a face carved by years of stress and a tone that didn't need to be loud to command attention. I handed over the flash drive. As the footage played, his expression never changed, but his pen stopped moving. 8 a.m., he repeated when Amanda's voice reached the part about the basement. "Electrical accident. Delayed 911 call." Laura added, "She's operating under a false identity. Warrants in 2 states. Multiple deaths. We have a signed cognitive evaluation. There's no legal gray area here." Ramirez looked at me. "Mr. Hale, I've seen my fair share of schemes against the elderly. But this," he tapped the folder, "this is a professional operation." I nodded. "And she's not working alone. There's another name, Tony Marino. She called him last night. Said he'd handle the cleanup after I was dead." That got his attention. He opened a drawer and pulled out a thick binder labeled Organized Elder Targeting, Multi-State Suspects. A few pages in, he found it Anthony Marino, alias Tony, suspected of laundering property through fraudulent estate cleanouts. "Been chasing this guy for 20 years, Ramirez said. "If he shows up, we take down more than just your would-be murderers. We dismantle a network." He leaned forward. "Here's what we're going to do. We place tactical units around your house early Sunday, 7 sharp. You let them come in. Don't change your routine. Don't say anything different. Let them believe they're in control." He looked at me. "You said your house is rigged." "Cameras in every room. 2 microcams added to the basement this morning. Audio feeds to cloud storage. Footage backs up every hour." Ramirez smiled. "You're not just a survivor, Mr. Hale. You're an asset." Laura handed him a slim folder. "We've also frozen his financial accounts, blocked any property transfers, and secured medical directives. Even if something went wrong, she wouldn't get a dime." Ramirez stood and shook my hand. "By Sunday afternoon, Jennifer Walsh will be in cuffs. You just have to make it to breakfast." The ride home was quiet. The streets I'd driven for decades looked different now, like a set stage waiting for the final act. The maple trees lining my road were nearly bare. The Hale house with its stone chimney and red porch light had never looked more like a fortress. Inside, I tested the cameras one last time. The living room feed was clean. The kitchen mic caught the distant click of my furnace. In the basement, the microcams captured every shadow, every wire on the walls. Everything was in place. That night, I sat in the same recliner where I used to read bedtime stories to Michael. The boy I'd carried through grief-scraped knees and school projects was now part of a plan to take my life. But I wasn't grieving anymore. I was building a wall of justice so thick not even a practiced killer like Jennifer Walsh could break through it. The clock read 5:52 p.m. when I heard the familiar sound of tires crunching on the gravel outside. My porch light flicked on, automatically casting a warm glow over the walkway. Michael and Amanda were back right on schedule, as if nothing had changed. As if I hadn't just spent the last 6 hours preparing to catch them plotting my death. Michael was holding a small bouquet of flowers. Amanda carried a thermos of what she'd likely claim was coffee. Props, I thought. Symbols of the loving son and devoted daughter-in-law here to check in before their elderly relative's quiet Sunday morning accident. I opened the door. "Well, you two look ready for something," I said. Amanda smiled. "Just wanted to stop by again. You seemed a little off yesterday. We figured we'd drop in, bring some dinner, make sure you're okay." "That's kind of you," I replied, stepping aside to let them in. Dinner was pot roast again, simple, predictable. I'd cooked it slowly through the afternoon while rechecking all 12 hidden recording points. My basement especially had the coverage of a federal facility. Amanda set the table without being asked. Michael handed me the flowers, and I could see his hand trembling as he did. "You all right, son?" I asked. "Yeah," he said quickly. "Just a long day." "I understand." We ate mostly in silence. Amanda commented on the tenderness of the meat. Michael pushed his food around like a guilty schoolboy. I watched their body language more than I listened to their words. Then, halfway through the meal, Amanda reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder. "Richard," she said gently, "we've been thinking about your coverage, your insurance. We spoke with someone who said it might be time to update your beneficiaries, just a few quick signatures." She slid the folder across the table. Legal-looking forms, polished, professional fonts, but I could spot a forged estate form from 20 feet away. "What's the rush?" I asked, keeping my tone even. "Well, our contact said the rates might change if it isn't processed by the end of the weekend," she said, eyes wide with faux concern. "It's really just a formality." Michael said nothing. His fork scraped softly against the plate. I picked up the folder, glanced at the first page, then set it down. I let out a quiet sigh, leaned back, and said casually, "You know, Amanda, I've been having a lot of memory issues lately. Sometimes I forget the simplest things." Her eyes sharpened, lips pressing together. "Oh." "Like yesterday," I said, reaching for another bite of roast. "I forgot to mention something really important to you both. Just slipped my mind." She stared at me, waiting. "But it'll come back," I added. "Things always do, eventually." After dinner, they moved to the living room. I insisted on cleaning up. From the kitchen, I listened in through the enhanced audio feed playing through my tablet. "He seemed more confused than usual," Amanda whispered. "Yeah," Michael said. He kept losing his place, stared at that folder for like a minute. "Exactly. Maybe we don't need to go through with it. Maybe he's declining naturally." Michael's voice was low, pleading. "If he's getting worse on his own." Amanda cut him off. "Your creditors don't care about natural decline. They want $65,000 on Monday. If we don't deliver, they'll come after you. We stick to the plan." Her tone was like ice. No cracks, no doubt. 8 a.m., she continued. "You'll be here early, checking in like the worried son. I'll be upstairs making coffee. He'll go down to the basement. He always does on Sundays. You make sure he's alone. And then he trips over the exposed wiring near the workbench. The camera system's still out," she laughed. "Or so he thinks." "We call 911, Michael said quietly. "We cry," Amanda replied. "And then we cash out. Insurance clears in 30 days. We sell the house in 60. We're in Florida before Christmas." Michael didn't speak. Amanda leaned in. "You're doing this for us, for our future. Don't flinch now." At 8:43 p.m., Amanda stepped outside to make one final call. I watched her through the dining room window, pacing the driveway like she was ordering groceries. "Tony, it's Jennifer," she said softly. "Yes, tomorrow, 8 sharp. He's home. Basement workshop. Make it look like a short. Bring the equipment. I need it clean. You come in at 10 for the reset." Tony Marino, her cleanup man. I tapped my tablet and bookmarked the audio, uploaded it to 3 different cloud drives. When she walked back in, her expression was once again warm and polished. She kissed my cheek, cold lips like marble. "Well, we should let you get your rest," she said sweetly. "Big day tomorrow." I smiled. "Yes, I have a feeling tomorrow will be quite memorable." They left at exactly 9 o'clock. As the front door clicked shut, I turned off the audio feed and stood in the middle of my quiet kitchen. The house was still, but inside my chest everything throbbed with motion. I checked the backup systems again. Cameras, storage drives, power redundancies, all green. Then I descended into the basement. The workshop smelled like sawdust and steel. My tools were neatly aligned, wires coiled in labeled drawers. This was where they meant to end me. And now it was my battlefield. I reached for the microcam installed in the joist beam above the stairs and gave it one final twist to center the view. Tomorrow at 8, they'd come expecting to find a body. Instead, they'd find the truth waiting for them in high definition. The first ray of sunlight sliced across the kitchen floor as I poured my coffee black, no sugar. I sat at the table in my robe, calm as stone. The house was silent, save for the low hum of my backup power system humming beneath the floorboards. It was 7:42 a.m. 18 minutes to curtain. The stage was set. Every camera synced, every file auto-backing up. A third-party alarm trigger hidden beneath the old toaster was wired to send emergency alerts if I didn't disarm it by 9:15 a.m. I wouldn't need it, but it was there just in case. Upstairs, the bedroom was made, pillow-fluffed sheets creased. Downstairs, the workshop looked just the way Amanda expected it. One wire, slightly exposed under the bench tools, shifted as if by forgetful hands. One misstep, they'd say. Poor old man. I took a sip. The coffee tasted like victory. At 7:58 a.m., the front door rattled. Michael entered first, feigning urgency. "Dad, you up?" I called from the kitchen. "Over here." Amanda followed, holding a tray with 2 mugs. She wore soft grays, no jewelry, no flash. Understated grief pre-applied. "Oh, good," she said with a breathy smile. "You're up early." "I always am," I replied. "Habit from the Navy." She nodded. "Coffee?" I glanced at the tray. Already got mine. "Thank you, though." She set the mugs down anyway. Michael hovered near the hallway, clearly rehearsing his next line. I stood. "Think I'll head downstairs. Got a loose hinge on the toolbox that's been bugging me." Amanda perked up. "Want Michael to help?" I looked at Michael. "Do you want to?" His eyes darted to Amanda. "No, that's all right," I said. "I prefer to work alone." And with that, I stepped down the stairs. The basement was still. Light filtered through the narrow windows, casting long lines on the concrete floor. I walked toward the bench, passing the camera mounted in the corner. It blinked once recording. I sat on the stool, lifted the top of the toolbox, and waited. 8:02 a.m. Footsteps above. A whisper. A creak. 8:05 a.m. The old furnace clicked on. Perfect background noise. 8:08 a.m. I heard at the back door. Softly opened, softly shut. Amanda had left the front door unlocked. Their man had arrived. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. 8:10 a.m. Another footstep on the stairs. Then a voice. "Hey, Richard." Tony Marino, mid-40s, ex-electrician, quiet as a ghost, but not quiet enough. "I thought you might be down here," he said, stepping into view. I turned. He wore maintenance gear, tool belt, gloves, cable in hand, casual like he belonged here. "You're not Michael," I said. "No," he replied. "He sent me to check the wiring." "Ah. A pause. You mind if I take a look under that panel?" "Be my guest," I said, leaning back. He moved slowly, scanning the room, but I saw his eyes flick to the corner twice where the security system should have been offline. He was checking, double-checking. He knelt beside the bench, reached for the wiring, then stopped. I watched him feel the tension in the air. Something was off. "You all right?" I asked. "Just thought I heard a click." "You probably did." He looked up. "Because everything you're doing right now," I said softly, "is being recorded." He froze. "I've got your voice print," I continued. "Your face, the time you entered, the tool in your left hand, the moment you realized this wasn't going to go your way." He stood. "Look, man." I held up a small remote. "Take one step, and this feed goes live to a PI, my lawyer, and the state insurance board." "You think I'm scared of lawyers?" he spat. "No," I said, "but I think Amanda is." Silence. Then he backed toward the stairs. "You tell them I said it's done. If they come back, I go public. Video transcripts, timeline. They won't just lose the payout, they'll face attempted murder charges. You know that, right?" Tony didn't answer. He just left. By 8:29 a.m., I was back upstairs. Amanda looked up from her phone, smiling. "Everything all right?" I nodded. "Yep, loose wire. Nothing serious." Michael looked like he wanted to vanish into the couch. I waited. Amanda stood. Well, we should get going. We've got brunch with my cousin. I thought your cousin lived in Ohio. She blinked. Right, she's visiting, just in town for the weekend. Of course, I said. You two have a nice drive. They left in a hurry. At 9:01 a.m., I uploaded the full encounter to an encrypted drive and dropped a copy with my lawyer under the label, "In the event of my death, begin here." Then I made myself another cup of coffee. I wasn't planning to die today, but I was planning to win. 2 weeks passed. Quiet ones. No phone calls. No surprise visits. No mysterious vans idling across the street. Michael and Amanda vanished like smoke. No goodbye, no questions. Just silence. It was the kind of peace you don't realize you're craving until it's finally here. I'd wake up at 6, make breakfast, walk the perimeter and tinker in my workshop like I used to before the house became a battleground. On the first Monday after they disappeared, I visited Laura Bennett, my attorney. Her office was in a renovated brick building on Penn Avenue, clean, classic, no nonsense, just like her. She had the file open before I sat down. "The footage is airtight," she said, flipping through stills of Tony Marino entering my basement. "If they ever file a claim on your life insurance, I'll bury it before they finish signing the paperwork." I nodded. "Thanks, Laura." "There's more," she added. "I reviewed your home title. Amanda's name was never on it, and Michael's only access was verbal, not written. I already knew, but hearing it aloud settled something in me. "So technically," she said, "you owe them nothing. No eviction, no notice, no fight." "Good," I replied, "because I'm changing the locks." And I did. That afternoon I hired a locksmith. Had the whole system redone, front door, back basement, even the attic hatch. Then I called a contractor to install a wrought iron fence with motion-triggered lights along the side yard. Paranoid. Maybe. But paranoia's just preparation in the right hands. I also canceled the auto transfer of the $900 a month I'd been sending Michael. I didn't send a message. No warning. Just turned the faucet off. If he wanted a conversation, he'd have to come knocking. But I didn't think he would. A few days later, I got a call from Mrs. Whitaker, my neighbor. "Richard," she said, "you've been busy." "I suppose I have." She laughed. "Good. I always said you were too generous with that boy." A lot of people said that, I murmured. "Well, I'm glad you finally see it." There was warmth in her voice. That quiet approval older folks give when you make the kind of hard choice they've made themselves. Then something unexpected happened. On Friday morning, while clearing out the attic, I found an old wooden box I hadn't opened since Margaret passed. Inside were yellowed papers, a few photographs, and a sealed envelope labeled, "In case you ever need to start over." It was her handwriting. I sat down on the attic floor and opened it. Inside was a short letter, handwritten, neat, clear. "Richard, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong. Maybe with the kids, maybe with you. But I want you to remember this house is not just walls and wires. It's us. So don't let anyone take it from you, not even them. Love always, M." I didn't cry, but I did sit there a long while. That weekend I did something I hadn't done in years. I invited Evelyn Whitaker over for coffee. She brought cinnamon buns and her usual smile. We sat on the back porch watching the leaves tumble from the maple trees. So she said, "Sipping what now?" I looked out over the yard. The fence shimmered under the security lights. The silence stretched sweet and long. "I think now," I said, "I live." I started small. A few repairs around the house. I finally replaced the creaky screen door Margaret always hated. I fixed the gutter Michael once promised to handle but never did. I repainted the trim. And I reopened my little workshop business. Just weekends. Fixing old lamps, rewiring retired fans, tuning up radios for neighbors. They paid what they could, sometimes just pies, but it wasn't about money. It was about getting my hands busy with something that wasn't betrayal. The best part, the nightmares stopped. I no longer woke up imagining sparks behind the walls or poison in the cereal. My home felt like mine again. Every corner I swept, every board I nailed back in place felt like reclaiming ground lost to something darker. And though Michael still hadn't called and Amanda hadn't dared show her face, I wasn't waiting anymore. They made their choice. I made mine. It had been 6 weeks since the night Tony broke into my home. 6 weeks since Amanda vanished, since I changed every lock and deleted their names from my estate files. I waited. "You got a minute?" he finally asked. Sure, I said, stepping off the ladder. Go ahead. He paused again, like he wasn't sure how to start. I heard about Tony. Amanda told me what happened. I'm surprised she's still speaking to you. A scoff. She's not. She moved back in with her parents in Connecticut. They kicked her out after a week. I said nothing. Michael kept talking, words tumbling fast. I didn't know what she planned. I swear. She told me she was just going to confront you. That's all. Michael, I interrupted, your girlfriend paid a man to break into my house. I didn't know that. She did it using your debit card. Silence. I checked the footage, the receipts. Your name's on the rideshare invoice that dropped him off. I didn't, he faltered. It was her. She used my phone. That's your defense, I asked calmly. That your fiancé used your phone, your card, your address, your account, and you didn't notice. He went quiet. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, you know what's strange, Michael? What? I was more upset that you didn't call. Not even once. I was ashamed, he muttered. Didn't know what to say. I nodded slowly. That's something we can agree on. There was a pause before he asked, so, what happens now? I smiled. A quiet one. I already told my attorney to remove you from the trust. He inhaled sharply. Dad. I also had her notarize a codicil. All life insurance disbursements redirected. All real estate held in irrevocable transfer to a local veterans foundation. You're cutting me out. I'm protecting what your mother and I built. He was quiet for a long time. Then, so that's it. That's it. But Christmas is coming. I know. You're really okay spending it alone. I looked out over the snow-covered porch. The lights twinkled gently. A warm mug of coffee waited behind the storm door. I won't be alone. He hung up first. No threats, no curses, no crying. Just a click and silence. A few days later, I sent a copy of the codicil to Laura, along with a handwritten note. Please ensure the clause is bulletproof. I'd rather spend my final years fixing toasters than leaving money for people who break into my house. She sent back a smiley face and a notarized confirmation. The last time I saw Amanda wasn't in person. It was on a local Facebook neighborhood group. Someone posted a blurry photo of her arguing with a bus driver downtown, bags piled at her feet, mascara streaking down her cheek. I didn't comment. Didn't share it. Didn't even save the photo. Just closed the tab and went back to resorting my socket wrenches. That Sunday, Evelyn stopped by with a tin of lemon cookies. I saw you got new porch lights, she said, handing me the tin. Look good, real sharp. They work too, I said with a grin. We stood there for a moment watching the snow fall. You okay? She asked softly. I am, I said truthfully. Finally. She nodded. Good. Because they don't deserve another minute of your thoughts. They won't get them, I promised. And for once, I meant it. New Year's morning always brought a kind of stillness I'd grown to cherish. The street was quiet, neighbors either sleeping in or off visiting family. I stood at the kitchen window, sipping a cup of fresh brew, watching steam rise as snowflakes drifted lazily past the glass. The holidays had come and gone without a single knock from Michael or Amanda. No letters, no apology cards, no surprise visits. Just silence. And, oddly enough, peace. A few weeks earlier, I'd sat with Laura one last time to finalize the last revision of the estate documents. She slid the folder across the polished table and said, It's done. I opened it and saw every clause in place. Michael's name removed. Amanda flagged for no contest. My assets, home and workshop, locked in a charitable trust for disabled veterans. No more vulnerabilities. Just decision mine. That day, I stopped by the local community center. They'd started using part of my annual donation for vocational workshops. I watched as a group of young men practiced electrical wiring under the supervision of an old friend, Rick, a retired union foreman. One of the students, maybe 19, noticed me. Mr. Hales, sir, he asked, unsure. I nodded. Call me Richard. He grinned. They told us the guy funding this used to repair toasters. Still do, I said, and he laughed. He stuck out a hand. Thanks, for all of this. I shook it firmly. No, I said. Thank you for showing up. In early January, I mailed a letter to Michael. No return address. Just a single page. Michael, I hope you find your own way someday without shortcuts or borrowed names. If you ever become the kind of man who fixes rather than blames, maybe we'll talk again. Until then, I wish you peace. Dad. I didn't know if he'd respond. I didn't need him to. One night, Evelyn joined me for dinner again. She brought soup. I made grilled cheese. We sat by the fire, the dog curled at our feet, the crackling logs filling the quiet. She glanced at my old workbench tucked behind the sliding doors. Still fixing things. Always, I said, but not the same things as before. She smiled gently and we let the silence stretch, a comfortable one this time. I wasn't lonely anymore. Just alone in the way I chose. In the quiet that followed it all, I learned something I wish I'd understood decades earlier, that fixing things doesn't always mean mending the past. Sometimes it means refusing to carry its weight forward. There's a dignity in choosing peace, especially when you've spent years handing out second chances like candy, hoping someone might finally taste the meaning. But people only change when they want to, not when you bleed for them. I no longer measure love by who stays around or says the right words. I measure it by who shows up when it's inconvenient, when no one's watching, when nothing is owed. That's what I offer now. Not forgiveness, not bitterness, just boundaries and the space to be myself. If this story echoes anything you've lived through, I hope you know it's never too late to choose your own quiet justice. Have you ever walked away not out of anger but out of clarity? I'd love to hear how it changed you. Thank you for staying with me.